What if the only way to become free is to die? Not the death of the body, but the death of the self.
Literature is full of famous prisons, but few are as comfortable as this one. A vibrant bird, kept in a cage of pure gold, spends its days pacing the floor and dreaming of a way out. The bird belongs to a wealthy merchant. Before leaving for a trade mission to India, the merchant offers his servants gifts, and he extends that same generosity to his pet, asking what he can bring back from the journey. The parrot rejects the idea of a physical gift. Instead, it asks the merchant to find the wild parrots of the Indian jungle and tell them that one of their own is living in a cage thousands of miles away. At this level, Rumi is simply recounting a classic folktale, a story of animal wit and a human who inadvertently helps a captive escape. The merchant fulfills his promise. In the middle of the jungle, he finds a flock of wild birds and repeats the message of his pet's captivity. One of the wild parrots reacts with a sudden, violent shudder. It goes limp and falls to the ground, apparently dead from the shock. Guilt-ridden, the merchant returns home and tells his captive bird about the tragic reaction in the jungle. As soon as the merchant finishes the story, the pet parrot collapses in exactly the same way. It lies motionless at the bottom of its cage. When the merchant opens the door to dispose of the body, the bird suddenly takes flight. It perches safely on a high branch and explains that the wild bird's collapse was actually a demonstration of how to gain freedom. While this works as a story of clever animals, the narrative is actually a vessel for a deeper observation. Rumi uses these characters to describe our own internal constraints. To understand Rumi's message, we have to look past the plot and see the characters as representations of psychological states. The merchant represents the calculating intellect, the part of the mind that trades, calculates, and builds wealth, but remains blind to spiritual liberation. The parrot is the human soul. It belongs to a higher, wilder realm, but finds itself trapped by physical habits and attachments. The cage is the ego, the false self we construct to survive the merchant's world. This cage is built from pride, habits, and dependence on an image. We value this identity as a prized possession, even though it keeps the door locked. Our intellectual calculations and our desire for a specific social role become the very bars that hold our spirit in place. The wild Indian parrot is the most significant figure because it offers no words. It provides the secret to freedom without a sermon, without a lecture or a logical argument. Rumi is showing us that profound truths exist beyond the reach of language or intellectual debate. These truths cannot be explained. They must be embodied and performed through direct action. The wild bird's silence proves that the merchant's logic is a useless tool for escaping the cage the merchant himself built. Rumi summarizes this path to freedom with a single, jarring command: die, die, in this love, die. This is a call for the psychological death of the false self, the systematic removal of the attachments that define our ego. Friedrich Nietzsche explored this necessity through self-overcoming, the idea that a person must constantly outgrow their old identity to reach a higher state. The Buddha taught that the end of suffering requires the total release of attachments to the self and its desires, and Jesus Christ famously taught that whoever loses their life will find it. These traditions all converge on the same point. True freedom is impossible without the intentional destruction of the ego. We often treat freedom as an external goal, something we can achieve through a better job, a larger house, or more status. Rumi's story suggests that if you carry the internal cage of your ego with you, you are merely moving into a more spacious prison. The captive parrot escaped by surrendering its role. It abandoned the very beauty and life that made it valuable to a merchant. It let go of the identity that defined its captive life. True freedom begins the moment we find the courage to let our old selves die. Because, as Rumi suggests, until you undergo that death, you will never truly be alive.